good.
Okay.
Okay.
Ha.
Okay, you come to me? Yeah. You gonna come to me? Hi, you watching Dontaesboxingnation. Okay. There you go. Ready?
Hi, you watching Dontaesboxingnation.
There you go. It's good, but it's a little too dark from, let me see. Let's try this from this angle. Come this way. Couldn't see your face when you come here. Okay, there, better.
Okay.
All right, ready? Go ahead.
Hi, you watching Dontaesboxingnation.
Dontaesboxingnation, what's going on, guys? So in the last year, there's been a lot of changes on the pound-for-pound list. Jermell Charlo has just become the undisputed champion in arguably the deepest division in boxing. And Devin Haney just became undisputed in one of the most deepest divisions in the sport as well. So pound-for-pound, the best fighter in the world, Terence Crawford, he came out and he gave his top 5 when it comes to pound-for-pound. And he has himself at number 1, Inoue at number 2, Usyk at number 3, Errol Spence, and then Devin Haney at number 5. Now, there's just so many things about Terence Crawford's top 5 that doesn't really make sense. Terence Crawford will be fighting against Errol Spence for undisputed in his very next fight. So why wouldn't Terence Crawford have Errol Spence at number 2? I mean, wouldn't you think that Terence Crawford would want all the credit in the world if he were able to beat Errol Spence for undisputed? And it wouldn't be like Crawford is putting someone there that doesn't deserve to be there. There is no way Inoue has a resume that can match Errol Spence's resume. And Crawford already made it very clear that he wants to move up. If he were to beat Errol Spence, he wants to move up in weight and fight the undisputed super welterweight champion, Jermell Charlo. But Crawford doesn't even have him in his top 5. But he has the guy that old media has been trying to replace him with, Inoue at number 2, which in a way is justifying the extremely biased pound-for-pound list that have Inoue at number 1. And we all know that this is a simple game of follow the leader. Terence Crawford is just following old media ESPN's lead, because I can guarantee you, Terence Crawford couldn't name 5 opponents that Inoue has beat. The only reason Terence Crawford even has him on the list is because he sees his name on old media's list all the time. Inoue's biggest win and the biggest name that he has faced in his entire career is against a 39-year-old Nonito Donaire, who had 6 losses on his record before he got knocked out by Inoue in their second fight. Going into the rematch, Donaire was the second oldest champion in boxing today, right behind Gennady Golovkin. Now compare that opponent to Jermell Charlo's opponents. Charlo just knocked out Castaño. Before that, it was Jason Rosario. He also knocked out the Hammer, Erickson Lubin, when he was undefeated. Came back in a rematch, knocked out the very skilled Tony Harrison. Inoue doesn't have any of those type of names on his resume. See, this is the problem with black fighters today. They are terrified of the backlash from the racist fans. They're terrified of racist people filling up their comment section. I'm talking about their Instagram, their Twitters, etc., etc. Matter of fact, when Canelo Alvarez lost to Dimitri Bivol, even Ellie Setback dissed Terence Crawford because Crawford came out and he said, now we know who pound for pound number 1 is. Ellie actually made a video in response to Terence Crawford saying this, and he said the comments on the internet of fans disagreeing with Terence Crawford proves that he's not number 1. And then Ellie, he said that Canelo Alvarez is still number 1, the best fighter in the world. And the only reason it's important to note that Ellie Setback is saying these things because Ellie Setback is a reporter that does exclusive interviews with all of these black boxers, but yet he roots against all of them when they're fighting against a non-black opponent. And he doesn't hide this because he makes it very clear on the videos that he makes. Listen, when it comes to boxing in general, when it comes to old media, the difference from them when they create a pound for pound list, they don't care how biased it looks. They don't care how racist they look. They are going to stay on code and stick to their agenda no matter how you feel about it. It doesn't matter how dominant black American fighters are in the sport of boxing. It doesn't matter how many black American boxers become undisputed. Old media is not going to give them the credit they deserve unless everyone comes out. And when I say everyone, I'm talking about all of these black American boxers and all of the most significant people that are not even black, that are in the sport of boxing, unless all of them come together and expose old media and call them what they are. See, but by way of contrast, when it comes to black people, when it comes to black fighters in particular, like Terence Crawford, when he puts his list together, his pound for pound list, he wants to overcompensate. Because unlike old media, Crawford cares about what people are going to think about his pound for pound list. He knows that if he doesn't put Inoue or Usyk all the way at the top above fighters that are more accomplished than them, Terence Crawford, he knows that he's going to be flooded with racist comments on his Instagram, Twitter, etc., just like Ellie Setback told him when he was receiving backlash because he said that he was the best fighter in the world. While fighters like Jermell Charlo, Terence Crawford, Errol Spence, Devin Haney, Stephen Fulton are taking on the toughest challenges, old media is praying that Inoue, he stays away from the toughest challenges. Right now, Inoue, the biggest fight for Inoue, the most competitive fight for him, and the biggest fight, the biggest name that he could fight would be against Stephen Fulton, who is 4 pounds bigger than Inoue. Now, of course, Inoue, he can stay in his own weight class. He doesn't have to move up, but if he stays in his own weight class, he doesn't have the opponents to be on the top 5 of anyone's pound for pound list. You know, it's crazy because as dominant as black fighters are in the sport of boxing, it's like their kryptonite is racist fans. The only time you see any type of intimidation from these black fighters is when they are worried about what the racist fans will say. Perfect example. Terence Crawford, he had went on to DAZN show a while before Canelo Alvarez lost. And Terence Crawford, he actually spoke some truth. He said Canelo Alvarez is avoiding the undefeated black boxers. And Terence Crawford, he received so many comments from racist Canelo Alvarez fans that about a month or two later, after Terence Crawford had said that about Canelo Alvarez, he then said Canelo Alvarez is the best fighter in the world above him. And now that old media is scrambling to find someone else to replace Canelo Alvarez and say that Inoue is either number 1 or number 2, now Terence Crawford is following that narrative. And he's saying that he's number 2 above Jermell Charlo, Errol Spence, and everyone else. You know, at the end of the day, what gives old media so much power is the fact that a lot of these black fighters of significance, they will usually repeat old media's talking points as long as it doesn't pertain to them. Devin Haney was pretty much reciting everything that old media was saying when it came to Canelo Alvarez. He was saying that he was pound for pound the best fighter in the world, which means he's better than Crawford, which means he's better than all the fighters he's been avoiding. But when these same people that Devin Haney was agreeing with came out with their pound for pound list after Devin became undisputed, and they had Lomachenko ranked higher than Devin Haney, that's when Devin Haney said, hey, this doesn't make sense. This is a clear-cut double standard right here. Now you have Terence Crawford saying that he's pound for pound the best fighter in the world, but once again, Inoue is above everyone else on the list. You had Errol Spence that was constantly saying Canelo Alvarez is pound for pound the best fighter in the world, when instead he could have said that he was the best fighter in the world and Terence Crawford was number 2. You see, guys, once again, if all of these black fighters were to get on the same page, just like old media does when they all start saying that Inoue is the best, Canelo is the best. Old media, they can tell you anyone is the best. And black fighters will start saying the very next day, that's the best fighter in the world right there. You know why? Because once one person from old media says it, all of them get on code. They don't have to call each other and say, okay, guys, so this is the new narrative, this is the new agenda, we're going to say this. They don't have to say that because all of them already know what time it is. As soon as one person says that Inoue is the best now, Canelo is the best now, Roman Chocolatito Gonzalez is the best now, once that one person says it, it spreads like wildfire, even when it's the furthest thing from the truth. As long as these fighters are only thinking about themselves when they see the double standards, when they see that they're not getting the credit they deserve, the more easier it will be for old media to discredit these fighters. That's all I got for now, guys. I'm on to the next one. Let me tell you guys about Issa Israel Law Firm. It is a full-service legal practice based in Denver, Colorado, an emerging hub for combat sports and high-altitude training. If you're a fighter inside or outside of the ring and you need a law firm you can trust to fight for you, visit thefighterfirm.com or email help@iilawfirm.com. Legal representation is usually limited to plaintiffs or defendants in Colorado, but iFirm can help anyone in the world with trademarking their business name, logos, and U.S. immigration issues. This brother has been my attorney for a while and helped guide me through all kinds of business and civil issues, so make sure you guys go to thefighterfirm.com. All right, now check this out, guys. If you're looking to repair eczema scars, burns and bruises, dark spots and blemishes, then this right here is the perfect product for you guys. It's called LO Deki Face and Body Oil. Athletes and top-ranking boxers, they're also using it after training to reduce swelling, inflammation, and to ease the pain. So get yours today. Go to lodeki.com, like them on Facebook, and follow them on Instagram. Fellas, I've got some great news for you. If you've lost your hair or have a receding hairline, the time has come when you can finally get your hairline back through a process called scalp micropigmentation. So here's how it works. It's a hair tattoo that replicates the look of your hair follicles when you have fully shaved it down. So to get this hookup, make sure you follow and contact my man ScalpCarolinas on Instagram.